The shadow came without warning. On a bright Tuesday morning, when children walked to school and workers filled the streets, the sky over Earth went dark. People looked up and saw something that made their hearts stop. A ship, but not like any ship humans had ever built. This thing was massive. It stretched across the sky like a metal mountain floating in the air. Its dark surface blocked the sun over 3 continents at once. Stood at the window of the United Earth Council building in Geneva. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. At 62 years old, he had spent his whole life studying war and peace. He had been a soldier, then a general, and now he was Earth's chief diplomat. His job was to talk when others wanted to fight. But as he watched that enormous ship hang over his planet, he knew that talking might not be enough this time. The year was 2347. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel just 20 years ago. They had built 3 colony worlds beyond Earth. They thought they were finally taking their place among the stars. They were wrong. The stars already had owners, and those owners had come to collect. Within hours, a smaller vessel descended from the massive ship. It landed on the lawn of the United Earth Council headquarters. Armed guards surrounded it, but they looked like ants next to the alien craft. The door opened, and out walked creatures that humans had never seen before. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were solid black, showing no emotion. They wore armor made of some shining metal that seemed to glow with inner light. At the front walked one who wore no armor, only flowing robes of deep purple. This was Envoy Myra, representative of the Empire. President met them at the entrance. He was a younger man, only 45, chosen by the people of Earth to lead them into this new age of space travel. He had prepared for many challenges. He had not prepared for this. Myra looked at him with those black eyes and spoke. Her voice was cold and clear. A small device on her collar translated her words into perfect English. I am Envoy Myra of the Empire. We rule 400 star systems. We have watched your species crawl out of your little world and begin to spread. You have entered space that belongs to us. You have taken resources that are ours. This is a crime against the Empire. Kept his face calm, though his hands were shaking. We did not know this space was claimed. We meant no offense. Perhaps we can discuss. Myra raised one of her 4 hands to silence him. There is nothing to discuss. The High Regent has already decided your fate. You have 2 choices: submit and serve, or resist and die. She pulled out a small device and pressed it. A hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed the terms of humanity's surrender. Read them carefully from where he stood nearby. His face showed nothing, but inside his blood ran cold. Humanity would become a vassal species of the Empire. They would pay yearly tribute of rare minerals from their colony worlds. They would send 10,000 humans each year to serve as workers for nobles. Knew what that really meant. Slaves. The Empire wanted human slaves. In return, the Empire would allow humanity to continue existing. They would not destroy Earth or the colonies. They would simply own them. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some leaders shouted in anger. Others begged for calm. A few even suggested that maybe submission was the best choice. After all, what could humanity do against an empire that controlled 400 star systems? Myra watched the chaos with what might have been amusement. You have 48 hours to give your answer. If you refuse or if you fail to answer, we will begin with your smallest colony. Every man, woman, and child will be turned to ash. Then we will move to the next, and the next, until only Earth remains. And then we will make Earth a monument to what happens when lesser species defy us. She turned and walked back to her ship without another word. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at President he looked at. Chief Diplomat said, his voice tired, "What do we do?" Did not answer right away. He walked to the center of the room and looked at every face. He saw fear. He saw despair. He saw some who had already given up. Give me the 48 hours, said. Let me prepare our response. What response can we give? One council member shouted. We have 50 ships, they have thousands. This is not a choice. This is an execution notice. Nodded slowly. Maybe, but I want to understand our enemy before we decide anything. Intelligence Director, come with me. Admiral Park, I need you as well. The three of them left the chamber and went to a secure room deep underground. Was a thin man with quick eyes. He ran Earth's intelligence service and knew more secrets than anyone alive. Was the opposite. She was a strong woman with short black hair and the look of someone who had seen many battles. She commanded all of Earth's military forces. Show me everything we have on the Empire, said. Pulled up files on the screen. We have been listening to their communications for years. They did not think we could understand them. They were wrong. For hours, they read through intercepted messages, analyzed ship movements, and studied history. What they found was worse than they had imagined. The Empire had done this before, many times. They would find a young species, demand tribute, and then slowly drain them dry. When the species had nothing left to give, the Empire would destroy them anyway. 12 species had been wiped out this way in the past 300 years alone. They never intended to let us live, said, her voice hard with anger. Submission or resistance, the ending is the same. They will kill us eventually. Stared at the screen for a long time. Then he turned to his colleagues with eyes that burned like fire. Then we will not submit, he said, and we will not simply resist. We will show this empire that humans do not beg, humans do not break. When pushed, humans push back. We cannot win a straight fight, said, but if we are going to die anyway, I would rather die standing. Smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made a terrible decision and found peace with it. That night stood alone on a balcony overlooking Seoul. He had traveled there to see his home one more time. Above him, the warship hung in the sky like a second moon. It blocked the stars he had dreamed of reaching as a child. He thought about what was coming. Millions would die, maybe billions, maybe all of humanity, but they would die free. They would die fighting. And maybe, just maybe, they would do enough damage that the next species the Empire found would have a chance. You made a mistake, whispered to the ship above. You think fear makes us weak, but fear is what has kept humanity alive for 100,000 years. Fear is what drives us to fight when we should run. Fear is what makes us dangerous. The wind blew cold across his face. Somewhere in the city below, a child laughed. Somewhere, two lovers walked hand in hand. Somewhere, an old woman told stories to her, all of them living their lives, all of them unaware that their world had just changed forever. Took one last look at the stars he could not see, hidden behind that terrible ship. Then he turned and walked inside to prepare humanity's answer. It would be an answer the galaxy would never forget. The 48 hours passed like a heartbeat. For the Empire, it was nothing. They had waited centuries for species to make their choices. They always knew what the answer would be. Every species chose survival. Every species knelt. It was the natural order of things. The strong ruled. The weak served. This was how the galaxy had always worked. Envoy Myra returned to the council chamber expecting the same. She brought an honor guard of 12 warriors, each carrying weapons that could level buildings. She wore her finest robes, ready to accept humanity's surrender in front of the whole galaxy. The moment would be broadcast to every corner of the Empire. Another primitive species brought to heel. Another victory without a shot fired. The chamber was full. Leaders from every nation on Earth sat in their places. Cameras floated in the air, sending images across the stars. Billions watched from Earth and the colonies. Trillions watched from worlds. Everyone wanted to see the humans bend the knee. President stood at the front. His face was calm, but those who knew him could see something different in his eyes. Not fear, something else. Something that looked almost like hope. Envoy Myra, he said, Thank you for giving us time to consider. I have asked our chief diplomat to deliver our official response. He speaks with my full authority and the authority of all humanity." Myra nodded. She had read the reports on a former soldier turned diplomat, intelligent but old, respected but cautious, the perfect man to deliver a surrender. He would do it with dignity, and that would make the humans feel better about becoming slaves. Walked to the center of the room. He wore a simple black suit, no medals, no decorations, just a man standing before an empire. In his hand he carried a single black envelope sealed with the emblem of Earth. He stopped 3 meters from Myra and bowed his head slightly, a sign of respect, not submission. "Envoy Myra," he said, "I thank you for your patience. Making this decision was not easy. We are a young species. We have much to learn. We looked at your offer very carefully." Myra smiled. At least the corners of her mouth moved upward. It was hard to tell with those black eyes. "Your wisdom does you credit, human. The Empire will remember that you chose peace." Held out the envelope. "Our answer is inside." Myra took it with one of her 4 hands. She broke the seal slowly, enjoying the moment. The whole galaxy was watching. This was her triumph. She pulled out the paper inside. There was only one word written on it. "No." Myra stared at the paper. She turned it over, looking for more. There was nothing else, just that single word. She looked up with confusion. "Is this a joke?" she asked. "Is this some human custom I do not understand?" His face did not change. "It is our answer. Humanity declines your offer. We will not pay tribute. We will not send our people to be your slaves. We will not submit to the Empire. Not today, not ever." The chamber went silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the cameras seemed to freeze in place. Myra's expression shifted from confusion to anger. "You understand what this means. Your colonies will burn. Your people will die. Your entire species will be wiped from existence. You are choosing death over service." Stepped closer to her. When he spoke, his voice was steady and clear. Every word was meant for the billions watching. "Humanity does not kneel. Not to gods, not to kings, and certainly not to you. We have read your history, Envoy Myra. We know what happens to species that submit to the Empire, the submitted. You worked them to death and then destroyed their world, the submitted. You took everything they had until nothing was left. 12 species in 300 years. All of them trusted your promises. All of them are gone." Myra's face went pale. "Those are lies. Those species failed to meet their obligations. They brought their fates upon themselves." "No," said, "you brought their fates upon them. You never intended to let them survive. Submission or resistance, the ending is always the same. So humanity has chosen a third option." He stepped back and raised his hand. Behind him, a screen came to life showing the stars outside Earth. The massive warship, the Eternal Throne, still hung in orbit, but now it was surrounded. Dozens of small human ships had moved into position during the last 48 hours. They had done it slowly, carefully, pretending to be cargo vessels and patrol boats. Now they formed a perfect ring around the alien vessel. Admiral Park's voice came through the speakers. It was cold and hard as steel. "Vessel Eternal Throne, this is Admiral Park of the United Earth Fleet. Your shields have been disabled by a virus we uploaded through your communication systems. Your weapons are offline. You are locked in position by gravity anchors. Lower your remaining defenses and surrender, or you will be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply." Myra looked at the screen with wide eyes. This was impossible. Humans were primitive. They had only been in space for 20 years. How could they have done this? "You are bluffing," she said, but her voice shook. 50 seconds, his voice counted. The honor guard reached for their weapons. They were fast. They were trained warriors who had fought across 100 worlds, but they were not fast enough. Human security forces had been waiting. They moved from the shadows with weapons drawn. In seconds, the guards were surrounded. Some tried to fight. Those ones were put down quickly. The rest dropped their weapons and raised their hands. Myra stood alone. Her guards were gone. Her ship was captured. Everything the Empire had promised would happen to humanity was happening to her instead. Walked up to her one more time. He was close enough to see the fear in those black eyes. You came to our world without warning. You demanded our freedom, our resources, our people. You threatened to burn our children and make monuments from our ashes. Did you really think we would just accept that? Did you really think we would go quietly into the dark? Myra had no answer. 10 seconds, called out. Admiral, their shields are dropping. They are surrendering. Cheers exploded through the chamber. Humans jumped from their seats. They hugged each other. They cried. They laughed. For the first time since the shadow fell, they had hope. But did not celebrate. He knew this was only the beginning. He stepped onto the main stage and looked directly into the cameras. His image was being broadcast to the Empire right now. High Regent himself might be watching. Good. Let him watch. People of the Empire said, your envoy came to us with demands. She promised us death if we refused. We refused anyway. And now your flagship, the Eternal Throne, the pride of your fleet, sits captured in our orbit. The first warship ever taken by a lesser species. He paused to let that sink in. We did not want this fight. We came to the stars looking for friends, not enemies, but you gave us no choice. You threatened our homes, our families, our future. So hear me now, High Regent, hear me, all who serve the Empire. Humanity does not beg, we do not surrender, we do not fade away. His voice rose, filling the chamber and echoing across the stars. If you want war, the Empire will have war, but it will not be the war you expected. We will not stand in neat lines for you to destroy. We will not fight fair. We will hit you where you are weak. We will burn your supply lines. We will turn your subjects against you. We will make you pay for every system, every planet, every inch of space you try to take from us. He took a breath. You thought you were coming to collect tribute from a weak species. You were wrong. You awakened something you do not understand. The human spirit does not break under pressure. It gets harder. You wanted to make us afraid. Congratulations. You succeeded. But you forgot the most important thing about fear. Looked into the camera with eyes like burning coals. Fear makes us dangerous. He turned and walked away. Behind him, Myra was led off in restraints. The Eternal Throne was being boarded by human marines. And across the galaxy, the Empire was learning a lesson that many species had learned before them and many would learn after. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm that prey became when it had nothing left to lose. The war for humanity's future had begun. High Regent sat on his throne and watched the recording for the 100th time. He watched the human diplomat speak his defiant words. He watched his precious eternal throne, the ship that had been in his family for 8 generations, fall into enemy hands. He watched his honor guard be taken down by creatures his people considered barely more than animals. Then he destroyed another piece of furniture. The servants had learned to stay far away when he watched that recording. 3 months had passed since humanity's impossible answer. 3 months in which had gathered the largest fleet in the history of the Empire. 500 warships, 20 million soldiers, enough firepower to crack planets. All of it pointed at one target, Earth. Commander stood before the throne, waiting for his orders. He was best military mind, tall even for a with scars on his face from a dozen campaigns. He had never lost a battle. He did not intend to start now. The fleet is ready, said. We can begin the advance at your command. Finally looked away from the recording. His black eyes burned with hatred. Destroy them, not just their military, not just their cities, everything, every human, every colony, every ship. I want their species erased from existence. I want future generations to look up the word human and find nothing but ashes. Bowed his head, it will be done. The fleet moved out 3 days later. 500 ships in perfect formation, stretching across space like a wave of death. They traveled faster than light, jumping from system to system. Word spread ahead of them. Other species watched from their worlds, wondering if this would finally be the end of the strange, brave creatures who had dared to say no. On Earth, Admiral Park watched the fleet coming. Her scouts had been tracking them since they left space. She knew exactly how many ships were coming. She knew exactly how powerful they were. And she knew that humanity had no hope of stopping them in a straight fight. 50 ships against 500, her second-in-command captain said quietly. Those are not good odds. Almost smiled. Then we will not fight fair. Gather all captains for a briefing. It is time to show these what humans do best. The briefing room was crowded. 50 captains, each commanding one of Earth's precious few warships. They were young and old, men and women from every nation on Earth. They had all volunteered for this mission. They all knew they might not come back. Stood at the front with a holographic map of the galaxy behind her. The Empire has fought wars for 1,000 years, she began. They have conquered 400 systems. They have never lost. Do you know why? No one answered. Because every species they fought made the same mistake. They tried to meet the Empire in open battle, fleet against fleet, gun against gun, and every time the Empire won because they always had more ships, more soldiers, more everything. She pressed a button and the map changed. It showed not battle lines but networks, supply routes, communication relays, fuel stations. We are not going to make that mistake. We are not going to fight their war. We are going to fight our war. They call it the Hornet Doctrine. Do you know what happens when you attack a hornet nest? Do the hornets line up and fight you head on? No, they scatter, they swarm. They sting you from every direction, and no matter how many you kill, there are always more. Stepped forward. Our fleet will break into small strike groups, 3 to 5 ships each. We will spread across every system between here and space. We will not try to stop their main fleet. We will let them advance. While they focus on Earth, we will be behind them, cutting their supply lines, destroying their communication relays, hitting their fuel depots. They will bleed, continued. Slowly at first, then faster. An empire that size needs constant supplies, food, fuel, ammunition, replacement parts. We are going to make sure none of those things reach their fleet. We are going to turn this war into a death by 1,000 cuts. One captain raised his hand. What about Earth? What about the colonies? If we scatter, there will be nothing to defend them. His face grew serious. The colonies are being evacuated as we speak. Civilians are hiding in bunker systems deep underground or escaping to the outer systems where they have not mapped yet. As for Earth, President has made his choice. He will not hide. He will stay and show the galaxy that humans do not run. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. Earth might fall. But even if it did, the war would not end. It would just be beginning. The strike groups deployed the next day. Captain led the first mission herself. Her group of 3 ships jumped to a supply depot at the edge of their space. It was supposed to be safe. It was supposed to be far from any fighting. 40 new warships were being built there, almost ready to join the fleet. Looked at those ships on her screen. Open fire. 3 human ships against a depot with minimal defenses. The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it was over, all 40 ships were burning wrecks. The depot itself was a cloud of debris. And her group jumped away before reinforcements could arrive. Across the galaxy, similar attacks began happening. A fuel station destroyed here. A communication relay there. Supply ships ambushed in transit. None of the attacks were large enough to make headlines, but they added up. Day after day, week after week, the war machine started to slow down. Commander first noticed the problem a month into the campaign. His ships were using more fuel than expected because human raids had destroyed 3 resupply points. His soldiers were complaining about equipment breaking down because replacement parts were not arriving. His communications were spotty because relay after relay went dark. He sent requests back to High Regent for more resources. The responses were always the same. Deal with it, destroy the humans, that is your only concern. Tried, he sent hunting parties to find the human strike groups, but the humans were never where they were supposed to be. They would hit a target and disappear into empty space. By the time ships arrived, the humans were already gone, striking somewhere else. These creatures do not fight with honor, reported to after yet another failed hunt. They run and hide. They attack from the shadows. They refuse to stand and face us. His response was cold. I do not care about their honor. I care about results. Find them, kill them, or I will find a commander who can. Pushed harder, he drove his fleet toward Earth, determined to end this by cutting off the head of the human military. If he destroyed there, surely the scattered ships would surrender. But the closer he got to Earth, the worse things became. Human attacks grew bolder. Entire supply convoys disappeared. 2 of his smaller warships were ambushed and destroyed by a group of human vessels that somehow knew exactly where they would be. Earth's intelligence director had broken the communication codes months ago. Every message the Empire sent, humanity could read. Every plan they made, humanity knew. They had underestimated human intelligence in more ways than one. 6 months into the war, finally reached Earth's system with his invasion fleet. 300 ships remained from the original 500. The others had been destroyed, damaged, or left behind to guard supply lines that kept being cut. He looked at the blue planet on his screen, such a small world, such stubborn creatures living on it. All ships, he ordered, prepare for planetary assault. But as his fleet moved into position, alarms began sounding. 50 human ships appeared from behind the moon, the gas giants, the asteroid fields. They had been hiding there waiting. 50 against 300, still terrible odds, but the human ships did not charge. They spread out, formed into small groups, and began picking at the edges of the fleet. Hit and run, strike and fade, just like they had been doing for 6 months. Watched in frustration as his massive fleet was turned into a slow-moving target. His ships could not pin down the humans. Every time he concentrated his forces on one group, 3 other groups would attack from different directions. That night wrote a message to High Regent. It was the hardest thing he had ever written. These humans do not fight like any species we have faced. They do not seek glory. They do not value honor. They fight to survive. They fight to hurt us. They fight like cornered animals. They are relentless. I fear this war will not be as short as we hoped. Somewhere on Earth, read an intercepted copy of that message. He was exhausted. He had barely slept in months. The war was taking everything humanity had. But when he read those words, he smiled. Relentless, he said to himself. Yes, that is exactly what we are, and you have not seen anything yet. The war was far from over. But for the first time, the Empire was beginning to understand what it meant to fight humanity. 6 months of war had changed everything. The Empire, which had ruled 400 star systems without challenge for 1,000 years, was bleeding. Not dying yet, but bleeding. Every week brought news of another supply ship destroyed, another outpost raided, another patrol that never came home. And across those 400 systems, other species were watching. There were creatures, small, quiet. They had served the Empire for 300 years. They mined ore in the deep tunnels of there. They built machines in their factories. They did whatever the Empire told them because the Empire was too powerful to fight. That was simply how things were. But now, in the dark places where overseers could not hear, they were talking. They shared stories of the humans, small creatures like themselves, weak by standards, and yet they were fighting. They were surviving. They were winning. Similar conversations happened among the aquatic beings who had been forced to give up their ocean worlds to colonists, and among the nomadic traders whose ships were constantly searched and taxed by imperial patrols. For the first time in living memory, vassal species dared to hope that maybe the empire was not forever. Had been waiting for this moment. He had moved his operations to a hidden station in an unnamed asteroid field far from any patrol routes. From here, he coordinated humanity's diplomatic efforts while the war raged, because understood something that High Regent did not. Wars were not won only with ships and soldiers. They were won with ideas, with alliances, with hope. Intelligence Director said during one of their daily briefings, "What do we know about resistance movements within the Empire?" Pulled up data on his screen. We have detected increased communication traffic among vassal species. Most of it is encoded, but our systems have cracked some of it. They are talking about us. They are talking about rebellion. Can we reach them? Hesitated. It is risky. If they intercept our messages, those species could be punished. Or worse, they could think it is a trap. Thought for a long moment. We cannot win this war alone. 50 ships against an empire. Even with our tactics, we will eventually run out of resources. But if we can find allies, if we can make the empire fight on multiple fronts, everything changes. He made his decision. Send out quiet messages. Very careful, very respectful. Tell these species that humanity does not seek to replace the empire with a human one. We seek to end empire entirely. We offer them partnership, not submission. Freedom, not a new master. The messages went out, and slowly, very slowly, responses came back. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened at the hidden station. Envoy Myra, the diplomat who had delivered the original ultimatum, asked to speak with. She had been a prisoner for 6 months. She was treated well. Humans did not torture their prisoners, which surprised her more than anything else about her captivity. She was given food, books, and a comfortable room. She was allowed to ask questions, and the more she learned about humans, the more her certainty cracked. Met her in a simple conference room. 2 chairs, 1 table, nothing fancy. He sat across from her and waited. Myra looked different than she had 6 months ago. The arrogance was gone from her posture. Her black eyes seemed tired. "I have been thinking," she said slowly, "about everything I was taught, everything I believed. I was told the empire brought order to chaos. We lifted lesser species out of barbarism. We gave them purpose. We were their protectors. And now," asked, "now I have read your histories. Your people were not barbarians. You had art, music, philosophy. You cared for your sick and old. You built cities and dreamed of stars. You were not lesser. You were just younger." She paused, gathering her courage. "And the species we protected, the ones that are gone now, I was told they failed, that they were too weak, but your intelligence director showed me the records. We did not protect them. We drained them until nothing was left, and then we threw them away. I spent my whole life building chains and calling them bridges." Studied her face. He had interviewed many prisoners in his long career. He knew when someone was lying. He knew when someone was telling the truth. "What do you want, Myra?" She met his eyes. "I want to help you, not because I love humanity, but because I cannot go back to what I was. I cannot serve an empire built on lies. If there is even a small chance that something better can exist, I want to be part of building it." It was a risk. Myra could be a spy. Her change of heart could be an act, but had built his career on reading people, and he believed her. "Very well," he said. "Tell us everything you know about the Empire's command structure, their weaknesses, their secrets." Myra talked for days. She drew maps of space that no human had ever seen. She explained the politics of the imperial court, the rivalries between commanders, the systems most likely to rebel. She gave them codes and schedules and names. It was more than could have hoped for. Armed with Myra's intelligence, humanity planned its biggest strike yet. They called it Operation Falling Star. Admiral Park gathered her scattered strike groups. For months, They had operated independently, hitting targets of opportunity. Now, for the first time, they would work together. 12 command ships had been identified. These were not regular warships. They were mobile headquarters, carrying the admirals and generals who coordinated imperial forces across the galaxy. Destroy them, and the military would be thrown into chaos. Captain led the first assault team. Her target was a command ship orbiting a gas giant in a system the thought was secure. She had 3 ships and a plan that relied on speed and surprise. They jumped in at the edge of the system and immediately went dark. No engines, no emissions, just silent metal drifting through space. It took them 2 days to coast close enough to attack. When they finally struck, it was over in minutes. The command ship's defenses were designed to stop large fleets, not small groups of silent hunters. Ships hammered it with everything they had and jumped away before reinforcements could arrive. Across the galaxy, 11 other attacks happened simultaneously. Not all succeeded. 3 human ships were destroyed. Dozens of crew members died. But when the dust settled, 9 command ships were gone. Commander received the news while his fleet still circled Earth. 9 of his fellow commanders dead. The entire command structure of the Imperial military shattered in a single night. He tried to restore order. He promoted new officers to fill the gaps, but there was confusion everywhere. Orders contradicted each other. Fleets did not know who they reported to anymore. Ships that should have been moving stayed in place, waiting for instructions that never came. And then the rebellion started. They stopped working in their minds. Thousands of them, all at once, simply put down their tools and refused to continue. When overseers tried to force them back to work, they fought back. They sabotaged water processing plants on worlds that colonists depended on. Suddenly, clean water became scarce across a dozen systems. Though with their trading ships, began smuggling weapons and supplies to anyone who wanted to fight the Empire. Their knowledge of space routes made them impossible to catch. High Regent watched his empire crack from his throne on Prime. The humans had not just fought his fleet. They had turned his own subjects against him. They had shown the galaxy that the Empire could be hurt. And once that was shown, everyone who had a grudge, everyone who had suffered under rule, started to act. "This cannot be happening," whispered. "We are the Empire. We have ruled for 1,000 years." But history does not care about the past. It only cares about the present. Received reports of the rebellions with quiet satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. The Empire was too big to destroy from outside, but from inside, with enough pressure in the right places, it would tear itself apart. He opened communications with the rebel species. He sent engineering schematics for weapons. He sent coordinates of supply ships. He offered fuel and safe harbors. And to all of them he sent the same message: "You are not alone. Humanity stands with you. Together we will build something better than empire." The war was not over. The hardest battles were still to come. But for the first time, humanity was not fighting alone. They had found friends in the darkness between stars. And together they would bring the dawn. 1 year had passed since spoke that single word: no. 1 year of fighting, 1 year of sacrifice, 1 year of blood and fire and loss. Humanity had paid a terrible price. Thousands of ships destroyed, hundreds of thousands of soldiers dead, cities on Earth and the colonies reduced to ruins by bombardment. But humanity still stood. And now, for the first time, humanity was not standing alone. The Free Systems Alliance had been formed 3 months ago. It began with humans, and then others joined. Species who had been quiet for centuries suddenly found their voices. Species who had accepted imperial rule as inevitable suddenly saw another possibility. The alliance grew from 4 member species to 12, then to 20. Together they commanded over 300 warships. Many were old. Many were held together with hope and welding. But they were free ships, crewed by free beings who were fighting for their futures. President addressed the Alliance fleet before the final campaign. He stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive human battleship that had been built in secret during the first months of the war. "My friends," he said, looking at the screens showing faces of a dozen different species. "1 year ago, an empire came to my world and demanded we become their slaves. They told us resistance was death. They told us the natural order was for the strong to rule and the weak to serve." He paused. "We chose to prove them wrong, not just humanity, all of us. The who stopped their machines, the who took back their oceans, the who became our lifelines, every species that stood up and said no more. We did not accept the natural order because we believe in something better. We believe that beings should be free. We believe that power should serve, not rule. We believe that the stars belong to everyone who looks up at them and dreams." His voice hardened. "Today we take the war to the heart of the empire. Today we fly to Prime. Some of us will not come back, but those who fall will be remembered forever as the ones who broke the chains. Today we do not fight for one species. We fight for all species. Today we are truly united." Cheers erupted across the fleet. Different voices in different languages, all saying the same thing: freedom, hope, unity. The Alliance fleet jumped to Prime. What waited for them was the largest force ever assembled. 300 Imperial warships defended the. They had called in every vessel from every system that could still reach them. This was everything the Empire had left. 300 against 300. For the first time in the war, the numbers were even. Admiral Park took command of the assault. She had spent the last year leading impossible missions, surviving against impossible odds. She had learned things about space combat that no textbook could teach. She had become the most feared human in the galaxy. "All ships," she ordered. "Attack pattern sunburst. Hit them from every angle. Do not let them form a defensive line. This is not a battle of strength. This is a battle of will, and our will is stronger." The Alliance fleet scattered and dove at the like a swarm of angry hornets. Just as had planned from the very beginning, they did not fight as a single force. They fought as hundreds of small teams, each supporting the others, each exploiting any gap in the enemy formation. They fought back with desperate fury. They knew this was their last stand. If they lost here, there would be no empire left to save. Commander commanded the defense from his personal battleship, the Unyielding. He had survived a year of humiliation. He had watched everything he believed in crumble. Now, finally, he had a chance to redeem himself. "Focus fire on their flagship," he ordered. "Kill their leaders. The Alliance will scatter." He was wrong. The Alliance had learned that no single leader mattered. They fought for an idea, not a person. When one ship fell, others took its place. But the battle was still brutal. Alliance ships exploded by the dozens. Ships burned beside them. Space became filled with debris and fire. Captain piloted her ship, the Horizon's Edge, through the chaos. She had been with since the beginning. She had led more raids than anyone could count. She had lost friends, crew members, people she loved. Now she saw her final mission. The orbital defense platform hung above Prime. It was massive, a weapon that could destroy entire fleets. Its shields were too strong for normal attacks. As long as it stood, the Alliance could not get close to the planet. But saw a weakness, a gap in the shield grid, too small for a torpedo, too small for most ships. Not too small for the Horizon's Edge. She opened a channel to Admiral. "Admiral, I see a way to take down the platform, but it is a one-way trip." His voice came back immediately. "No, we will find another way." "There is no other way, and you know it." His voice was calm. She had made her peace. "Tell my family I love them. Tell them I chose this. Tell them I was not afraid." "It has been an honor, Admiral." Horizon's Edge signing off. She cut the channel and pushed her engines to maximum. Her ship shot toward the platform like a missile. Guns tried to track her, but she was too fast, too unpredictable. She hit the gap in the shields and kept going, straight into the platform's reactor core. The explosion lit up the sky of Prime. The defense platform, the weapon that had protected them for centuries, came apart in a ball of white fire. Was gone, but she had opened the door. All ships, ordered, her voice thick with grief and determination. Attack, honor her sacrifice, take that planet. The Alliance surged forward. Commander saw the platform fall and knew the battle was lost, but he refused to surrender. He turned his ship toward the Alliance flagship and pushed forward. "If I am going to die," he said, "I will take their admiral with me." His battleship bore down on his weapons hammered at her shields. He was getting closer, close enough to ram, close enough to kill. Saw him coming. She had seconds to react. She did not run. She did not hide. She turned her ship directly at him and fired everything she had. The two battleships tore into each other. Explosions ripped across both hulls. For a moment, it seemed they would both be destroyed. Then the Unyielding's engine failed. Had pushed it too hard. His ship lost control and spun away, exposing its weakest armor to the guns. Did not hesitate, fire. The Unyielding exploded. Commander, the Empire's greatest warrior, died in fire and darkness. Without their defense platform and without their commander, the remaining ships began to surrender. One by one, they lowered their weapons and raised their communication flags. The battle was over. The Alliance fleet surrounded Prime. Below them, the capital city of the Empire spread across the continent. In its center stood the Imperial Palace, where High Regent still sat on his throne. Broadcast a message to the planet. "High Regent, your fleet is gone, your commander is dead. Your empire has crumbled around you. I am giving you one chance. Surrender now and your people will live. Your cities will not burn. Your culture will not be erased. We are not you. We do not believe in genocide." There was a long silence. Then's voice came back, defeated, broken, old. "Very well, I surrender. The Empire surrenders." Across the Alliance fleet, beings of a dozen species cheered. They had done the impossible. They had brought down an empire that had ruled for 1,000 years. Park stood on her damaged bridge and she thought of everyone who had died to make this moment possible. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." On the hidden station where he had coordinated so much of the war, allowed himself a small smile. The hardest part was over. Now came the truly difficult work. Building a peace that would last.